Hey, it's Justin Goff. And in this video, I'm going to go over 3 highly profitable personality driven emails that you can swipe or use for either your own list, or if you're a copywriter, you can use them for clients that you're writing for. These are actual emails that I sent to my list during a recent affiliate promotion. And you can use these whether you're promoting your own stuff, whether you're promoting affiliate offers, and they work in every niche too. So I mean, it doesn't matter if you're doing coaching stuff like I am, or if you're selling guitar training or fitness stuff or investing information, they work in every single niche. So we're going to break down the 3 emails that worked really, really well for me. I'm going to show you exactly how I did it and how you can do it too. But first, let's start with the fact that these are personality driven emails. I want to show you some examples of what non-personality driven emails look like. These are probably things you would be familiar with if you're on direct response or e-com kind of email lists. So this would be kind of what I would call more of a click driver email. They're usually short and there's really almost no personality whatsoever. So you have no idea almost even who the email is coming from. There's no story. There's nothing about their life. It's literally just a short kind of email to get you to click through to the sales page or to the video sales letter. So this is a great example of this. This is in the health niche from Natural Health Sherpa. Subject line: stop eating this protein to improve your heart and shrink your tummy. So the copy goes: Harvard scientists warn you may be skyrocketing your risk of heart disease, diabetes, and even cancer simply by putting this dangerous protein on your dinner plate. A recent study showed that eating more of this toxic protein could increase your chances of developing diabetes by 50% over the next 4 years. Yet millions of Americans eat this almost every single day, often without knowing the damage it does to their health. Are you? Fortunately, as soon as you stop eating this protein, you'll improve your heart health, shrink your tummy, and feel better in as little as a few days. But first, check out what this toxic protein is and see if you're eating it. Then they got a link to it, blah, blah, blah. So that is a very typical kind of click driver email. Like I said, you see these in all kinds of different niches. They're very, very popular in direct response. But what I'm going to share with you is very, very different. What I do with my email list and a lot of the stuff that I teach is more around personality driven emails. And in my experience, if you want people to actually stay on your list, like if you want them to, like I have people on my list from 2018 who still buy stuff from me, who bought stuff from me in 2018 or still buying stuff from me in 2023. That does not happen if you're doing this style of email. But that can happen if you're doing if you're doing the personality driven emails, because you're actually offering them some value and people actually start to look forward to your emails as opposed to, oh, he's just trying to sell me something. So let's go over a couple examples here of personality driven emails. I have 3 to share with you. All 3 of these were actually from a recent affiliate promotion I did for Brent Charlton, who is my kind of mindset, emotional block coach. He finally put out a course after a couple of years. I promoted it, did really, really well. So these 3 emails are from that. Basically, there was like a 9-day launch. And I probably sent 15, 16 emails over that 9 days. So I'm going to share with you 3 of the ones that did the best. And kind of break down why they worked and how you can kind of use them as well. So this first one is what I would call a basically relatable problem kind of email. So any problem that the person you're writing to has, if you can just tap into that problem, especially if it's a very current and pressing problem, like something they deal with every day, if you can tap into that and if you can kind of tell a personal story around it, it's really freaking easy to make a lot of sales. So this one is tapping into the problem of writer's block. So most of my list, let's say about 60% of my list is copywriters. I got a lot of business owners, got a lot of people who want to get into copy, but large majority are doing kind of all the writing for their copy. So subject line: 20-minute cure for writer's block, ? So this one starts off as kind of a Q&A thing where basically someone emailed me and I'm just kind of using that as fodder to kind of get the email started. So A copywriter on my list who I'm not sure wants to be named writes in and asks how to get rid of writer's block. And this is what this person actually wrote in. My problem is that I feel like I write too slow sometimes because it comes from not having a good idea or not being able to think clearly to get good ideas for copy. Because I have all this inner conflict and voices going back and forth and being indecisive. So it makes me spend hours just to crank out 3 emails. Would Brent's method help with something like this? So then I go on and kind of answer it. Here's my 2 cents. Writer's block is not simply about a lack of ideas. It's a deeper emotional issue. And in my experience, it usually has to do with you feeling like your writing isn't good enough, so you try to make it perfect. I'll give you an example. So this is where I launch into a story. Stories are without a doubt, especially personality-driven stories. So I'm sharing a personal story of mine. Stories are without a doubt one of the best ways to sell things. And they're much more engaging than just giving off reasons and facts and stuff like that. So launching into a story here is really critical. So I go into the story, I say, back when I used to write 40-page sales letters, I would procrastinate for weeks on end before I started a project. Why? Because deep down I thought this letter has to be good. I couldn't write something mediocre or something that bombed. If I did that, I thought my life would be over. In my mind, the only thing that was acceptable was a winning sales letter. And because I believed that, I became a huge perfectionist. I had to have weeks and weeks of research. I had to have 8 different ideas for the lead. I had to study every single sales letter the last 20 years for similar offers. All of that had to be done before I could write a single word of copy, which was insane. And it made my writing take forever. So that's kind of me really, like I said, just relating with the person reading this. Anyone that's a copywriter who struggles with writer's block and procrastination and all that is going to relate with that story because they've probably had similar things happen. So now I kind of dig into what is the solution. So I say that was insane. It made my writing take forever. But here's the thing. Once I dug into my procrastination with Brent, who's my coach, I discovered most of my writer's block stem from me never being allowed to make mistakes growing up. You see, my mom was the ultimate perfectionist, and nothing I did was ever good enough for her. If I got a 3.8 in school, she'd be screaming about the fact that I got a B in math. If I came in second place in a golf tournament, she'd be asking me why I didn't win. If I mowed the lawn and one of the rows was not as straight as she liked, she'd pull me outside and point at the row and tell me I was an idiot. This is all true, by the way. I didn't think much of this back when I was a kid, but looking back now, I realized that it was a really screwed up way to raise a kid because she had an impossible standard that I could never live up to. So my entire childhood, I was always trying to be perfect, and that carried over into my copywriting career. So this whole part is probably an eye-opener for most copywriters because they're not thinking about writer's block and procrastination being this deep of a thing, but the reality is that it really is that deep. It goes almost always back to your childhood and some demand on you to be perfect or you to meet these unrealistic standards. So I shared that here. So that's a pretty, like I said, probably eye-opening thing for most copywriters on my list who are like, oh shit, this is a totally different way of looking at this. So then I go on, I felt like my copy had to be the best and that it couldn't fail. And it wasn't until I did a few corrections with Brent around perfectionism that it started to fade away. After the corrections, my writing was more free. I came up with better ideas and I didn't procrastinate for weeks upon weeks. I could just sit down and write. So loosening up the perfectionism that had its grip on me has been life-changing. My writing is so much better and it flows a lot easier. Now, maybe this resonates with you, maybe it doesn't, but if it does, then I think you'd be smart to look into my coach, Brent's new course that helps you remove emotional blocks around procrastination, perfectionism, and more. This is the same method I've used with Brent over the last 5 years, and I paid him close to $260,000 over those five years to learn this. However, with this course, you can get access to the same info at a much more affordable price point. So basically here, I'm really drumming up the value of this and showing like, hey, I spent a boatload of money to work with Brent. Anywhere from when I started with him, it was about $20,000 a year, and now it's up to $100,000 a year. So a lot of money to work with Brent. He's super exclusive to work with. You can't even get in with him. So I really want to play that up on how good he is at what he does and how exclusive it is to work with him. And the fact that he put out this course and you can work with him at a fraction of that price is a really, really big deal. So I'm really playing that up. I'm not going to go into the rest of it because the rest of this is pretty much, you're going to see in the next 3 emails, it's basically the same thing. It's like the same pitch over and over and over. I basically just reused the pitch, and I'm getting them to click through here. What I really want to point out, though, is this is a type of, like I said, a relatable problem kind of email. So the relatable problem being writer's block, where I basically just shared a very personal story, and then I dug into it and kind of took it, like I said, a layer deeper in terms of showing them where the writer's block really comes from. So that was probably, like I said, eye-opening for a lot of copywriters. And then I give the solution. So I talked about how I started doing some corrections with Brent, how my writing got a lot better. I was able to just sit down and write. I wasn't so tight. I wasn't procrastinating for weeks upon weeks, blah, 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 blah. So that, like I said, that's an example of a relatable problem email. Anytime the people you're writing to have a similar problem as you, and you can tell it in this kind of story-driven way and relate to that problem, those emails absolutely crush. So that's the first email we're going to look at. Let's look at the second one. And this one is really pretty much all about the subject line. So to give you some background on this is not an actual sales email. This is just to get people on a Zoom call where I was actually going to promote Brent's course on the Zoom call. So this whole email is just getting people on a Zoom call. This is a type of email I call a controversial or taboo kind of email. And it's really only controversial or taboo in the subject line. Really, the whole rest of it is pretty normal. But the subject line says threesome at 8 p.m. tonight. That is a very just like, that's not a normal subject line that you're going to see in your inbox. And when I sent this out, I probably got, 20 plus responses to the email, like people just laughing at the subject line and saying that subject line's great. I had to open this, blah, 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 blah. Like if I would have simply said, call at 8 p.m. tonight, I guarantee the open rates on this email would have been much, much lower than what they were. So anytime you could tap into, like I said, controversial or taboo things, sex being obviously a big one, you're going to get much higher open rates. You're going to usually make a lot of sales because anytime you can kind of just tap into that, like I said, anything that's controversial or anything that's taboo, people want to read it. So that's basically all we're doing here. And like I said, it's really all in the subject line because the rest of the email is pretty kind of boilerplate. So I'll just go into it, but just so you can kind of see what the email says. Later tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific, I'm going to host a 3-way Zoom call with 2 very successful copywriters, Ning Lee and Alec Rosa. On the call, Ning, Alec, and I are going to show you how to use Brent Charlton's correction method to earn more money without feeling guilty about it, get past your procrastination around writing, stop being a perfectionist when you write copy, raise your fees and your rates so you can charge what you're worth, finally see your own value and your own worth so you don't feel like an imposter anymore, stop hesitating to start your own business or your own offer and finally do it, plus a bunch of non-business stuff that Brent's method can help with, like dating, social anxiety, parenting, drinking, people pleasing, and more. So this is really just bullets of kind of the benefits of what we're going to talk about. And I just kind of know from experience, from talking to my list and from knowing the people on my list, that these are all kind of problems that they have. So earning more money without feeling guilty about it, getting past your procrastination around writing. That's literally what that entire email we just went over was about. Stop being a perfectionist when you write copy. That's same thing as what we just talked about. Raise your fees and your rates so you can charge what you're worth. Huge problem with a lot of copywriters, consultants, all kinds of people on my list who basically undercharge because they don't feel worthy of charging more. Finally see your own value and your own worth so you don't feel like an imposter anymore. I mean, this is very, very rampant, especially among copywriters. When they're in rooms with business owners and people who are doing better than them, they just feel like a fraud and an imposter and like they don't fit in. And the last one here, stop hesitating to start your own business or your own offer and finally do it. Tons of copywriters want to have their own offer. They've been thinking about it. Many of them have been thinking about it for years, and they just never really kind of pulled the trigger. Then I kind of piped in this last one here just because I know a lot of the stuff, some of the stuff that I talked about in some of my emails that Brent's work helped me with, I think resonated with most, especially a lot of the guys on my list. Like a lot of the stuff I did with Brent helped me a ton with dating and relationships and stuff. And my list is probably 80% men. So I did talk a little bit about the dating stuff, social anxiety. I'm obviously not a parent, but Brent's stuff can really help with parenting stuff. Drinking, I've cut back on my drinking to like literally once or twice a year, basically after a lot of the work I've done with Brent. People pleasing, that was a huge one, and a lot of copywriters and a lot of business owners have this problem of just being an eternal people pleaser where you're always trying to make everyone else happy, and you basically just burn yourself out and you get walked all over, and it's not a great place to be in. I used to be a huge people pleaser, but Brent's stuff really helped me with that. So these are all what I would call secondary benefits. The main benefits are all kind of right here and what I'm using to get people on this call. So then I go over it. I'm like, we'll cover all this stuff on the call. Plus, the three of us will share our own personal stories of how we used Brent's correction method in detail to make our lives better in every imaginable way. That's all happening tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. It's on Zoom. And just so you're aware, I will not be recording this. So you have to be there live if you want to see it. One other note, this is not going to be a hardcore pitch for Brent's course. So I'm making this, I really want to make this here because most of the time they think when they're getting on Zoom and stuff, it's going to be a webinar that's a kind of a hardcore pitch. That's not what this was at all. It was really just me, me and the other guys on the call sharing our experience with working with Brent. I mean, I did pitch at the end for maybe, I don't know, 2 minutes, but out of the hour and a half call, it was pretty much all just sharing our experience. So I want to make sure to put that out there so people don't think it's just going to be a hardcore pitch. So as I say specifically, this will be a laid back call where we simply share in detail what we did to get past the mental blocks in our life and show you how you can do the same. That's very important to say that. We'll also answer any questions you have about Brent's correction method as well. So if you've been reading my emails all week about Brent and you have some concerns, doubts, or questions about whether it'll work for you, we'll be there to answer any questions you have. By the way, this came at the end. This was like the day before the launch ended. So they had already seen 5 or 6 days worth of emails from me about it. So a lot of people probably at this point are on the fence. They have questions, doubts, concerns. Is this going to work for me? Is this going to actually help me? Is it worth the money? So that's why I put that in there, because there's a lot of people who are probably in that spot who have a lot of, like I said, concerns and doubts and questions. So again, I restate the calls tonight. All you got to do is register on Zoom, blah, 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 blah. Link to the Zoom call. So like I said, that is the copy in the email is an example of, like I said, very just kind of straightforward boilerplate kind of copy. This is the controversial kind of taboo thing, which is the subject line that says threesome at 8 p.m. tonight. So the big point I want you to take away from this one is using the controversial and taboo kind of stuff in your emails, whether that's the subject line, whether that's actually using it in the email. People just can't resist controversial and taboo topics. So highly recommend tapping into those in your emails whenever you can. All right, last one. So we went over the relatable problems. We went over the controversial emails. This is one of my favorite ones to write, and it is what I would call a contrarian email or against the grain. So the big idea behind this is that everyone, especially during a launch, so I'll give you some context. During this launch, like I was promoting the launch, Ian Stanley was promoting the launch, Dan Ferrari was promoting the launch, I think Jason Capital was promoting the launch. So a bunch of people, most of us who are all Brent's clients, were promoting this launch. And so a lot of people who are on my list reading stuff about that are also reading it from other people's lists as well. And most of them are talking about all the good things. about Brent. It's like, Brent helped me with this, and it's going to help you with this, and like his stuff is the greatest. So I went the complete opposite way and did a very contrarian thing. Like I said, contrarian or against the grain. And I literally just said right in the subject line, 3 reasons Brent's method won't work for you. So if every kind of email you're getting in there in your inbox is talking about how great Brent's stuff is, and this is the greatest thing since sliced bread and it changed my life, then all of a sudden you see one that says 3 reasons Brent's method won't work for you, that is going to interrupt kind of the pattern and get you to open it. You're going to be like, what? Like, everybody's saying this is the greatest thing. Now you're saying it's not, it might not work for me. These emails absolutely crush, and not just during a launch. I mean, they do great during a launch, but anytime you're going against what all the other kind of people in your niche or other things that they're seeing in their inbox are saying, you're going to get a lot of opens and you're going to get a lot of sales. By the way, this style of email works so well. I think I sent 3, possibly even 4 of them, very, very similar to this. So like I did one that was the case against Brent Charlton. I did one that was this, and I did another one like, is Brent Charlton a scam? So like all of those were tapping into that, like I said, that kind of contrarian angle, and those just absolutely crushed for me. So let's break this down. I jump into it. A bunch of people have been emailing me about Brent's correction method that I've been telling you about and asking, will this work for women? Does this work for older people? Does this work if you're Asian, Black, Hispanic? All valid questions. And the honest truth is Brent's method does not work for every single person who uses it. So I'm going to share some of the people I've seen it not work very well for. So literally, I'm just kind of coming out and telling the truth about Brent's method, kind of showcasing some of the downsides of it to say, where no, it does not work for every single person who used it. And I've seen examples in the past of people that it has not worked for. So I actually call all those out in this email. So starting with number 1, very successful business owners who think they know everything and think they don't have any problems. I know 2 to 3 people like this who went to one of Brent's workshops or worked with him one-on-one, and they did not get much in the way of results. Why? Because they were so ingrained in the mentality that they didn't have any problems, that they closed themselves off from reality. They preferred to suffer and live under the delusion that everything in their life was great. That seems insane to me, but if you have a similar mindset as this, I'd recommend passing on Brent's work. So that's the first kind of person I've seen it not work for. So basically, I'm just detailing 3 different kind of groups of people that I've seen Brent's work not fully work for. And this first one, like I said, I know a couple of people who worked with him one-on-one or who went to his workshops who just had this mentality that I don't have any problems, everything in my life is great, or I know everything already about this kind of stuff, and this guy's not going to teach me anything. If you have that kind of mentality, I'm just calling it out. Like, Brent stuff's not going to work for you. Second one, someone who has severe trauma from when they were 0 to 3 years old. So out of all the people I sent to the live workshops Brent used to run, only one guy was not able to tap into the inner child that's required to use Brent's corrections. Why? Because he had so much trauma from the ages of 0 to 3. So this is a true story. It's one of my friends. Basically had a horrible childhood where literally like his mom would torture him and leave him on his own for days on end. And that was so painful for him that he literally like blocked it out. He honestly has like no memories whatsoever of anything really from his childhood because it was just that painful. And a lot of the work that Brent does, you have to tap into this kind of inner child and memories from when you were younger. And so my friend who went had a very difficult time doing that because he pretty much had blocked every single thing out from when he was a kid. So I basically just tell that story. I'm very upfront with it. But I also say 99% of the other people who have gone through Brent's work have not had an issue with this. But for some reason, this guy's trauma was so bad and so deep that he didn't even have access to those memories. I highly doubt this is your case. even if you had a bad childhood, but it was an example of someone who the method didn't work for. So I wanted to share it with you. So I'm just being very upfront that there are certain people that Brent's stuff has not worked for. It is a very, very rare case, but there was one. So that was the second thing. Now I go into the last one. Now, the last person that the method doesn't work for is one that's actually pretty common. I saw it with a few people, and that's someone who buys the course and doesn't actually do the corrections. Bottom line, if you buy Brent's course and you don't actually use it, nothing is going to change for you. No doubt his method is incredibly effective, and it can help you to remove a lot of the blocks that are causing you to have writer's block, make less money than you want, undercharge for your services, and even causing you to procrastinate with starting or scaling a business. So it can help with all that, but you have to actually do the corrections. So I'm just laying that out very bluntly to them. If they don't actually do it, nothing's going to change. But then I kind of turn it here and show the good part, which is that the good part is that the corrections only take about 20 minutes to do, and you can do the whole thing on a single sheet of notebook paper. Plus, once you do them once, you either remove the block completely or it'll go from like an 80 on the triggering scale to a 30. So it's a huge difference in how you feel. Now, this is where I go into addressing kind of the big objection that I was getting in a lot of the emails for this course, which was, will this work for me if I'm blank? So I go through literally kind of everything. And I've personally seen his method work for 99% of the people who have done the correction. Works for men, it works for women, it works for black people, it works for white people, it works for Asians, works for Hispanics, it works if you're LGBTQ, it works for any nationality, it works if you're 75 years old, and it also works if you're 18 years old. So that just kind of goes through a large majority of the questions I'm getting where one question I kept getting was, does this work for women? Because a lot of Brent's clients are men. So a lot of the people on the sales page is a bunch of men. So a lot of women had a question, does this actually work for women? And yes, it absolutely works for women. So I just try to address all the kind of objections people might have in terms of age, race, where they live, all of that type of stuff. So then I go into, I've seen it work for pretty much everyone, because the truth is, unlike most self-help stuff, Brent's correction method works at the root of your issues. It's not surface level stuff. It gets down to the real reason why you're scared to leave your clients and start a business, waiting till the last minute to write every piece of sales copy, constantly forcing yourself to write perfect copy, terrified to charge the prices and rates you truly deserve, and a whole lot more. So those are all just kind of a list of the problems that I know most people on my list have. And I talk about how all this can be helped with Brent's correction method. So if you want help with any of this and you're serious about fixing your problems, then this is for you. Now, this is where I kind of do the value proposition again. I'm like, the current cost to work with Brent one-on-one for a full year is $125,000, which is frankly way too expensive for almost everyone on my list. However, his new corrections method course is literally the exact same method he uses with his private clients like me, and you're getting access to it for a fraction of the cost that private clients pay. So it's a hell of a deal, blah, 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 blah. And I basically go into the pitch that is the same in all these emails, get them to click over to the sales page, and that is that. So the big thing I want you to take away from this email, like I said, this is a contrarian or against the grain email. As you see from the subject line, 3 reasons Brent's method won't work for you. The big idea behind that is literally just going against everything else that all the other people in your niche are saying. Like I said, so everyone else was like talking about how Brent's stuff changed their life and it was the greatest thing ever. And I even sent emails like that as well. But then I peppered in these kind of contrarian ones where I was like, 3 reasons Brent's method won't work for you, or is Brent Charlton a scam, or the case against Brent Charlton. That taps into, like I said, all that kind of skepticism and questions that people have. And really, like I said, just kind of stands out among everyone else saying basically all this good stuff about Brent and how he's helped them so much. So you can use these contrarian ones in literally every single niche out there. Like if everybody's talking about the keto diet being the greatest thing, you can talk about here's why you should avoid the keto diet. If everyone's talking about using your Amex points in a certain way for travel stuff. You can talk about why you should stop cashing in your points through the Amex system, blah, 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 blah. So whatever people are doing, you can kind of go the opposite way. And it just, like I said, it crushes, it grabs people's attention. And it's really just this pattern break, pattern interrupt that just, you really can't resist. And like I said, I did three, possibly even 4 emails that were contrarian in this launch. And I would say they were probably all 3 or 4 of those were probably in the top 6 or 7 of the emails that I wrote in terms of sales. So the contrarian angle works really, 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 really well. So highly recommend using it. By the way, so these were all examples of personality-driven emails. This is what I write to my list every day. It's what's helped me build my list up to, it's currently around 11,000 people, and I'm making anywhere from $60,000 to $80,000 a month writing these personality-driven emails each day. You can do the same thing with your own list, or if you're writing for a client. These work really, really well for coaches, experts, copywriters, list owners who kind of care more about the long term and want to keep people on their list and not just spam them with a bunch of kind of typical click driver offer emails. So I'm a huge fan of the personality driven emails. My personality driven email course, which is literally called Justin Style Emails, is on sale right now. If you want to check that out, I will pop the link down below. You can just click on that and check it out. I think it's going to be available till Tuesday night, so maybe 3 more days. Highly recommend picking that up. A lot of big name copywriters and list owners and even new copywriters have picked it up so far. So highly recommend picking it up. I basically just detail my entire method of how to write these personality driven emails to a list, how to use them for bonding, and how to also make a bunch of sales with them. So that's what the whole course is about. Link will be down below. Hope you got a bunch of good info and good insights out of this, and I hope to see you using it soon.